Councillors, staff, members of the gallery, press, thank you. Apologies for being a couple of minutes late. Welcome to the council meeting for the Tuesday the 27th of January. I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. Now read you the council prayer. We humbly bow before thy throne of mercy, O God, our Heavenly Father, and seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the welfare of our city and the peace and prosperity of our land. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Please be seated. Apologies, councillors, I was in dreamland thinking 7:15. Yeah. Reminded. Okay, declaration of members by members of a conflict of interest. Are there any? I declare an interest myself. I'm a nominee for the Commission for the Development Assessment Commission, item 19.5. Declare a conflict with that, and if necessary, I'll leave the room if the items are pulled out. On leave, we have nil. Apologies, nil. We have someone confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 16th of December. Councillor Cruz wishes to speak to it? No. We have a seconder. Councillor Barnett wishes to speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against, they are carried. Thank you. The Mayor's report is on page 1. Oh, as it should be, I guess. How does that work out, CEO? Special? No, I don't think so. Nothing special. As presented to you, councillors, I don't think anything's changed in the last couple of days. And I have no updates on that, save for participating in a terrific event during the week, and of course the event tonight, which I think went pretty well. Someone wish to move my report? Councillor Lee, would you speak to it? Do I have a seconder? Evans, would you speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Against, is carried. Verbal reports from council representatives and local government or community organisations. Do we have any verbal presentations from representatives? No? Okay, we'll move on. Petitions we have nil, deputations nil. Motions on notice, we have a motion on notice from Councillor Bowman regarding staff hours costing for 2015 for the prospect on page 2. So Councillor, could you please be outstanding your motion, and having done so, you were entitled to speak to a couple of 5 minutes in the meeting. Okay.
So I move that the 2014 Terrific Prospect Summary Report be updated to include full costing of staff hours, and the second point being I move that the 2015 Terrific Prospect Summary Report include a full costing of staff hours. So I can speak to this now?
Yes.
Okay, so this came about just from a few inquiries in regards to the cost to our ratepayers of the Terrific event, given that we didn't actually have a race start this year. So I chased up in regards to the full costs, including staff hours. I was sent a response which was from the agenda of 22nd of April 2014, which broke down the staff hours. Bear with me. So it was basically in a point, so I don't know if I pass that around or just refer to it. So basically it was listed with the staff name and a 0.7 or 0.6 allocation of their time. So I was still unable to get a full staff allocation. I followed up with the Director of Communication and Planning, Nathan Cunningham, and we had a bit of email correspondence, which I've got with me as well. And basically it was explained to me that we don't do a full cost attribution of costing for these kind of events. Now my point being, so this is a large event, it's quite a large budget item, and I think when we're looking at large budget item we also need to look at the staff allocations associated with that. in pushing for a final sum, I did a summation that there would be, and I think we agreed that it was probably equivalent of over 5,000 staff hours involved. I did a summation based on an hourly rate. That could be wrong or it could be right, I don't know. But you're looking at a cost, I guess, for the event of around about 180 to 200,000, and the staff hours maybe about the same in my assessment of it. But again, I haven't had a firm figure yet. So, and I think one of the other things that came up as well, we didn't actually look at the cost involved to businesses with closing off the road. So it was closed for half a day. And so even though some businesses along Prospect Road do benefit from it, I think there was a cost, and that wasn't really presented to us in the report. So when we're making assessments on events or unusual or bigger spend items, I'd like to be able to base decisions based on the total cost. So we are the second smallest metropolitan council, correct me if I'm wrong, and this approach is, I guess, what I'd like to see, doing more with less, so we're getting the right information. Perhaps the council can look to facilitate these bigger events instead of hosting them. And to make these decisions, I think we need, in the first instance, to benchmark where we are and look at our return on investment, inclusive of resources, including staff resources. So if I go back to my motion, so I'd like to encourage other elected members to consider our ratepayers with the end of the pensioner concession looming, and move that we look at the 2014 and 2015 terrific prospect summary reports to include full costing of staff hours.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Barnett, would you speak to us?
No, just that I'll second it for the sake of there being any further discussion.
Okay. Is there any further debate? Councillor Lee.
I need to say that I don't agree with the motion, because for a lot of our staff, this is their core business, this is their job, and it would be the same as my industry, where we take kids on camp. We don't cost in our wages, it's already factored in as part of our job, and sometimes we have to do a bit more than the normal work hours, etc. I think, I kind of feel that this is politicising an event, and I think it's really important that we don't facilitate community events. I think that we run community events because that is community expectation of it. I don't agree with the motion. I don't agree with including the full costing of staff hours when we look at events, because that is what our staff do anyway. That's part of their role.
Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I similarly won't be supporting the motion as it stands at the moment. I think going back and updating the previous report is difficult, and that in itself would, I presume, take a bit of time and effort to do, given it's now 2 events ago. I don't necessarily see the value in that. I do have a question to the Director, if I can, to there. The question is, what level of information is likely to be put in the report that you are preparing now on use of staff time? Will it be what was done last time?
Director.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, essentially we would use last year's as a guide or a template for process going forward. Happy to amend as directed by the Chamber. That would be the baseline.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thanks. So I'm comfortable with the information that's in there. I think that does include consultants' time, consultant time and cost that we incurred as a separate item from memory. So that's something that I think we need to look at, and that will be included. The other issue for me, just to explain against my rationale, is that we do lots of events, we do lots of different events, and if we start doing this for every event, that I think for me becomes difficult, because that becomes a life of its own in terms of work. And I'm not sure, I take Councillor Lee's point, before we start to do particular work, we know that's what they're doing. I'm not uncomfortable with that. So as I said, as it stands, I'm not formulation.
Any further debate? Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Mayor, and I will be supporting the motion, and I think it's important that we at least have an understanding of what costs are involved in the event, and not necessarily to say that the event is worthwhile, notwithstanding those costs, but to look at if there are better ways of doing things as well. At the moment, we don't track a large part of the investment in our major event, which is staff time, and there would be nothing wrong on the face of it of actually tracking that and saying, well, this year we spent this amount, next year we hope to spend this amount, for these reasons we've spent more, for these reasons we've spent less. Staff wages are a factor that ratepayers do pay for, and we need to have some level of benchmarking and understanding around it. For every event, absolutely probably not, and we don't want to get into the point where really all we're doing is just chasing our tail with compliance. But this is our flagship event. Understanding the cost in its entirety is, I think, good, and understanding where there are efficiency opportunities is also good. There's nothing, I think, wrong with that. There's nothing that says a terrific prospect, even with this whole cost attribution, isn't a successful event and isn't a viable event. But we need to understand what those costs are. We need to be able to quantify them. And I don't see it being harmful to factor in staff costs as part of that, which in any other situation would be a large factor to consider for any entity putting on the event. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Harris.
Not really, just to say that I'll support it, but also point two I'd be supporting because I'm a bit hesitant about going back in the time and things like that. But as a one-off in my head, it'd be good to know the full cost of it. So I'll be supporting it.
Councillor, if I do it in parts, is that what you're suggesting? There's two parts to it?
Most probably it'd be good because I think there's a personal big difference between we've already gone through the 2014 one. We, as some of us, have gone through it, that whatever is happening there, maybe it's better just to concentrate. So I'd like to see it go in two parts if possible, please.
Thank you. Any further debate? I must speak from the Chair on this one. It's an interesting motion. I noticed it. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing it forward. Full cost attribution is a very wordy concept that I guarantee you it won't give us the information that we really want, which is relevance and comparability with other things in the council that we have to make decisions on. And therefore, it becomes quite difficult. When you pick on a single item and put full cost attribution against it, you start to think, oh my goodness, that's very expensive. Two things happen. You don't have comparison with what everything else costs on the full cost attribution basis. The second is that we just can't lay staff off just because we've deleted the functions. It's not how local government works. Better or worse, you can argue that afterwards, but that is how it works here in local government. So the ability to pull back on those costs should we decide not to go ahead, it's not very straightforward. If the report gets up, then I'd be very keen to for the staff to have a go at providing some form of comparability with other events that we run and have run for some instances 30 years. So what's the full cost attribution on the Project Fair or the Twilight concerts, or indeed running the library, which is our most visited facility in the city. Has enormous hours, including a lot of overtime, and certainly has staff costs to run all that. Gallery, the Planning and Development Department always scares me when I see how many people are there and how little we collect on fees against applicants wanting us to assess their plans, because our fees are capped by the state government. So we'll find that, I think Councillor Lee probably hit the nail on the head. He said this is just what people do. It's the service we provide, it's their job, and we make decisions during budget time as to whether we want them to do that job or another job. That's what we take care of. In terms of this event versus others, there's no doubt in my mind that 20,000 people coming out on the night is the largest crowd we get for anything. In fact, I think it's larger than everything else combined. I could be wrong. It's of that order. It's an extraordinary response and very well liked by people. So happy to look at costs. I'm always happy to look at costs for decision making. But I think when we get this, I think the new councillors will find that it certainly heightens debate, but we have to be careful it doesn't heighten it on one thing versus everything else that we do, which we haven't done full cost attribution on. And we will see some of that during the budget cycle. We'll start to see the complexity of that information. So I think that's my piece. Any further debate? No, back to the mover. We should sum up, Councillor Bowden.
Yep. And can I respond to points as well?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay. So I'd firstly like to disagree with the point Councillor Lee made that's politicising. I think with a quest for information, and I think the ratepayers deserve to know how true cost of these events, considering it is one of the biggest budget items. And though we're not debating whether it was a success or not. I think, it was a great event, but as a responsible council, we need to look at, are we best hosting things ourselves, and what is the value of the staff hours, volunteer hours, because that's a value thing for the council, versus outsourcing it to something like Fork in the Road or an external events company. So really, for me, it's putting it under the microscope and saying, look, we are watching what the council is spending and having the information there for the ratepayers on big ticket items. So, like I said, I'd like you to support the motion. I would consider, obviously, going back to 2014 is a lot of work, so I don't know how I would do the motion and do it for one part and not the other. You'd have to guide me on that. I personally would like 2014 summary report and the 2015 summary report to be updated. But I would be happy if other elected members would be able to compromise and just go for the 2015. That's it.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I'll take it in parts. So Councillor Harris's request. So all those in favour of part 1? All those against part 1? So part 1 is lost. All those in favour of part 2? All those against part 2? So part 2 is 1. Okay, thank you very much. We move on. We'll commend that motion to the CEO to get on with the CEO as best you can. And move to questions with notice. We have nil. Do we have any questions without notice? There being none, move on to the protocol. There are a number of reports tonight, and as you've experienced in a couple of previous meetings, I'll do a call over, and if they're not pulled out by you, then I will ask someone to move them on block. So I will start off with 13.1, which I will pull out. We can move the items within on block, but we'll pull it out to get us there. 14.1 and 14.2, I'll also withdraw the questions. 15.1, we need to withdraw just to correct something in the report. Does anybody wish to pull out item 15.2? Good. 15.3. 16.1. The Adelaide Farmers Market Prospect Licence Agreement.
Yes, please.
19.1, letter from Ombudsman. If we wish to pull out 19.1. No. 19.2 is withdrawn for Council to make a comment on, notice in the recommendation. 19.3, does anybody wish to pull out the Audit Committee meeting dates? No. 19.4, does anybody wish, we need to pull out 19.4 to see if there are any nominations. 19.5, does anybody wish to pull out the nominations for the Development Assessment Commission? No. 19.6, delegation update, anybody wish to withdraw that? No. 19.7, the Eastern Regional Alliance Executive Information Package, plenty in there. Anybody wish to pull that out? No. 19.8, periodic election, anybody wish to pull that out? Yes, sir. Yeah, group 19.9, the narrow streets policy endorsements, anybody wish to pull that out? Yeah, group and 19.10, addition to upkeep roads, footpaths and power lines and the prospects, anybody wish to withdraw that? Absolutely. Okay, so I speak a mover of 19.1, 19.3, 19.5, 19.6 and 19.7. Moved by Councillor Lee. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Evans. I saw first. All those in favour? Against? They are all carried. Thank you. So now I go to item 13.1, the report of the Audit Committee meeting. And it is withdrawn because there are a number of items within it, and it just enables you the chance to ask any questions of the various items, 10.1 to 10.5. If there are no questions, I'll seek a mover of 10.1 to 10.5 on block. Are there any questions? Councillor Barnett is the other committee member. Happy to move?
Yes, happy to move.
So any so do you wish to point out anything?
Well, I think it's fairly, people have read the report and in there, so I'm seeing there were no questions. I think I won't need to go any further.
Thank you. Have a second. Councillor Lee, just to debate the item. Thank you. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Next item is the information report on page 5. Again, I just withdrawn it for any questions, but I do note there are some items within it that I wanted to draw to your attention. And because this, I think I mentioned before, this is the best report on what council's activities are. And if you have a curious resident and you want to talk to them about what council's up to, this is an excellent place to start. It covers all the disciplines of council across the strategic objectives of council. On page 16, there's a mention there of the events, of course, written prior to, I think, no, not prior, it was post Terrific Prospects. And I guess I have no hesitation, I need to guess, I have no hesitation in saying that I thought the event went fantastically well. I struggled to think of something that didn't work. I saw no incidents. I have no complaints whatsoever. In fact, I had some of the grumpiest people tell me how fantastic it was and we have to keep doing it. And I thought that was an extraordinary commendation for people that are usually very reserved in their views. And what I like most about it, and I'll say this to anybody and I'll say it to you, is the numbers were there as to last year. That's of second degree importance to me. Primary importance is that it's a family event and people of any ages and any level of wealth and position feel comfortable there. And that's certainly the feeling I got and that's certainly the feedback I got. There were lots of people of all ages, kids right through to oldies having a lovely time wandering up and down and partaking in whatever they thought they wanted to. And I thought the staff did a tremendous job, and I just want to say, Mark, thank you to the staff and please pass it on. I thought it was fantastic and really was a huge privilege for me as Mayor to preside over an event that I have very little to do in organising, leave it to you and your staff to do, and they make us look fantastic. So thank you very much. Yeah, of course. So I just thought I'd point that item out to you. In the information report, item 22, there's a lovely letter from the Little Adelaide Village, I think, about the digital hub. It's always nice to get commendations from people, so they're very happy with the service they received, the digital hub. Page 37, the Heritage DPA, terrific news that the staff have got confirmation that the Heritage DPA is in interim effect. Yes, Councillor Barnett, you may well want to applaud. It's taken us a long time to get there. And very soon those parties affected will receive a letter to talk to them about the process and the broader consultation will start. So that's a great milestone for us, and thank you, CEO, and please pass that on as well, Director, on behalf of the Council. It's a huge milestone. Page 45, the Charles Kane irrigation upgrade is complete. They're always big projects, but I hear that it went without a hitch. That's what the news I've got, so I hope it serves us very, very well. And of course, page 52 notes, but we already know the Churchill Road upgrade on the southern end is well underway, and I think progressing very nicely down there. So things are moved across the city. There are the 5 or so items I thought were of particular importance. Does anybody else wish to, from your Champions group or Friends of group, wish to point something out or ask a question?
One's a point out and one's an ask. So the asking's easy, which comes on page 47, and it's about the traffic management thing being done by Tompkins. And my simple question, when it says, without finding the page, areas on southeast and northeast are the 2 areas that they're doing. So is southeast down by Menindee Gardens type area, is that where North Street fits in? And northeast, is that sort of north right up? Do you want me to find the exact word?
Page 46, item 5.1.
Down by the bottom it is somewhere. So that's just a question, actually.
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 Director, are you able to give us the areas, or would you like to take it on notice and send us a memo?
I'll send you a memo. Just to clarify, there's a bit of a discrepancy there.
There's a discrepancy. Okay, so we'll get clarification after the meeting. Councillor.
Okay, my other one is a bit of a problem I have, and it's centres on, you've got me page 35, and not that the report's bad, it's about the irrigations of all the parks and the checking. So that's not a problem to me, but my problem comes, and just listening to the Mayor speak about the irrigation a few minutes ago, 2 of our parks actually have double names, Nunuwera and Pundu Yetta, and all our information always talks Prospect Gardens or Charles Kane Reserve, and I personally believe it, and they're not, one name's not better or first name, second name, they're both equal names. So when we have reports, I'd personally appreciate that they have the 2 names in. So the report itself I'm happy with, very happy with, but I'd like to see that if we've got a name for a place, that we actually use it.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure we can move the report as amended and incorporate that, because this becomes the official record, and that won't take much to update. Councillor Groot and then Payne.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. The first one's about our Youth Advisory Committee. Several years ago, I believe we used to have some connection between elected members and the Youth Advisory Committee. There doesn't seem to be that formally anymore, as I understand it. It was never formalised. So can I just, I guess there's the question which I just asked myself is, do we have a connection with the Youth Advisory Committee from the elected member group? I think the answer to that is no. Is that something we could raise at a workshop to have a discussion? Because I just don't feel we have any connection to the Act. It might be something that is useful, it might not be something that's useful, but it's just be good to have a conversation about that, I think, given that we used to have an elected member on that group.
So I think the CEO's made a note. Director, is it a simple answer yes?
Yes, certainly worthy of work discussion.
Thank you. I've just got a couple. The second one is the page 19, the radio frequency identification project for the library in community planning and comms. There's a fairly significant amount of work going on that, which I think is worth noting. But is there any cost to us at all in that sort of transfer to that new system, or will it be funded by the state government?
Through the Chair, there is a budget bid being prepared for next financial year to deal with the actual infrastructure upgrade.
Thank you. Now, on to page 26. We're talking about, so in the report talks about the YouTube tips that are being uploaded quite frequently from 502. I would be interested to explore the cost of that, who's paying for it, and the difference between uploading a YouTube clip for 502 and a YouTube clip for council meetings. Because I can't find it right now, but I believe it does say that there's quite a, I'm just trying to look at, I'm finding a number. There's quite a few do we use the same technology, or are they 2 very different systems?
Sorry?
Through the Chair, I'd have to look into that. I've got a feeling that volunteers are involved in that process, but I'll have to get back to you on the details.
Objective far shorter, Councillor, so I'd say that some of the technology is
Yeah, I'm just curious because it would be silly for us to have 2 very different systems doing the same task that costs far different amounts. And on that note, I'll sit down.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, just picking up on what Councillor Harris said about the naming of the parks with the Ghana names. I do believe, and I think when I was previously mayor, there was actually council policy that there are 2 parks in particular that had Ghana names, and I thought that that they should be co-used whenever mentioned, and also I'm not sure that our signage on the 2 parks, that's the Tana Yoto, the Possum one, Charles Kane, and the Prospect Gardens Reserve, which is the...
This is a time for questions. So your question is, can someone check the signage?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and our policy, I believe that we do have policy. I don't believe it's been repealed.
Yes. That's why I think it's worth amending the report. Any further questions? Councillor Bunn.
I'm just making sure I'm speaking to the right thing. So regarding the information report, the key strategy 4.2.4, page 38, CS for our character. A design review process for multi-storey development has been implemented which assists in making planning decisions on applications received by council for larger scale development. It may have escaped my attention, but can I ask through the Chair in regards to what that is and how it's been implemented?
Sir, Director.
Through the Chair, and thanks for your question. It relates to the process we use through the ODASA, I can't remember the full extent of the name, with the large scale development assessments or development applications that come before us. Something just further to that is that we're planning on running a workshop with the elected members on development plan, development assessment, and essentially a bit of a catch up on some of these things, because this is clearly a matter that hasn't gone through the new council.
Can I ask another question?
Further question, yes.
So that's a new process that's been implemented. Has it had to go to council, or that's just been taken as independently?
Sorry, Councillor and Director, could you address this in terms of the regulation change that means that above 4 stories has to go to the government architect?
Certainly, through the Chair, above 4 stories does have to go to the government architect. However, we've had a process where some of the 3-storey developments on the corridors we've informally referred to ODASA to seek some feedback and get some, I guess, consistency with lights along the corridors.
Which we've been doing for a while.
Yes, and it wasn't a council motion.
Okay, thank you. So the staff are exercising their delegations to seek advice where appropriate, and the government architect has offered us the ability to refer matters to them underneath the regulatory change, so they've been doing that. Certainly worth us talking at a workshop. Further question, Councillor Harris?
No, I was actually going to move it, but I did have one quick brief question. It was just said then above 4 stories. I thought it was 4 stories and above. Yes, that's all right, just in my own head.
4 stories and above. Sorry.
Unless everyone's got questions, I was going to move it with and seeking your guidance, not very often, but this time I will. Do I mention that I'd like to see the proper names where appropriate in?
I think that simply having the words as amended. Oh, sorry, is it up on the screen there for you? Noting the dual naming council parks at page 34, so it's very specific.
Yeah, I only used page 34 because that's where it went, but it went to page 47, 56, all the way through.
So dual naming it, noting the dual naming of council parks full stop might be simple.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So if anyone hasn't got questions, I was going to move it.
You have moved it. Now I've taken it. I've locked it in. I've locked it in, Councillor.
Don't need to speak, it's done.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor Barnett. Could you speak to it?
Yes, only to note that yeah, I have been reminded, my memory does serve me now that we do have a name down, Charles Kane, on the park. But I noticed that in our parks hierarchy, Park and Reserve classification and location map, in our other report, that there's the Prospect Gardens / Nanawira, but Charles Kane Reserve has missed out on / Anoyoto. So we just...
CEO's promised me telepathically that it will be resolved and never see this problem again.
Thank you.
Now we get that. Any further debate on this item? No, that concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Status report on capital projects and operating projects, where you get to see how things are tracking. Any questions on any of the projects? Take questions first. No, if not, I'll see. Sorry, Councillor Bowman.
Again, I'm just flicking through this iPad. Not as easy as a piece of paper. Okay. Right, so just in, and this may be answered later, I'm not quite sure, just in regards to the status report, apologies, in regards to the parks implementation strategy, so I understand that part of the St Helens...
refers to the item number or the page number or something.
Okay. I will.
It's better for other people.
Apologies.
76.
76, thank you for helping me out. Okay, so park strategy implementation on page 76.
10, halfway down.
Item 10, halfway down. So there was just a concern there, an oversight of the budget process. So I just wanted to, I suppose, check what was happening with that, and if the parks implementation strategy, so like a review, I'll just read it out, an oversight of the budget process has been that the budget bid to complete the master plan was unsuccessful, where the budget bid to bring the capital works was successful. So master plan, we're talking about St Helens Park and some details of minor and capital works in the kindergarten lease agreement later. So I'm just wondering how that affects everything. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is a master plan going to be done for the park?
I'll take the question, but in short answer, this is a review or status report of the projects.
Yep.
We can choose to change the projects at any time.
Okay.
Us on staff as to what that means. So this doesn't bind us to do the work.
Okay.
The other report that will bind us or not bind us. But Director, you want to answer this question specifically, will there be a master plan done?
Madam Chair, the answer to that is no. And essentially, to further explain, there were two budget bids put forward, and one was sort of dependent on the master plan. Master plan didn't get up. The capital works money still sits there, and that's what's looking at being dealt with through the way the council report.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor? Councillor Harris, a question on these, or you want to move?
It's only a question, then I can move forward. Only a question, and I can't get all my numbers. In this section it mentions footpaths that we're doing. That's a question. My simple question is, right now, and I know Davis Street's one of them, have we still got more footpaths to do in the 14-15 era? Year?
Oh, to complete
Just to start anymore?
the program for this financial year?
Yes.
I'll put the question to the Director. Are you aware, Director, of the status of the...
Through the Mayor, there are some to be completed, yes, but I can provide you a detailed list of the remaining ones through a memorandum.
I could appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And if no one does it, I will move it.
Right. Very good. Wish to speaking further to it?
No, thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bowman, wish to speaking further to it? Any further debate? No? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 15.1, the Regional Public Health Plan. Just want to correct the record on page 89 of that report. Just make your way there. And you'll notice on page 89 there's a table of participants in the process. We were previously advised that the Corporation of the Town of Walkerville would not want to be involved by ERA that told us that, but we've subsequently been contacted by the Town of Walkerville to say they're absolutely involved and want to be involved, and could we please correct that record because it's not true any longer. Maybe it never was, but our advice was to the contrary. So if we just note that in the report, and you'll see a suggested part 2 in the recommendation now, so we note that in moving the report. So now see a mover for that recommendation as amended on page 86. Anybody wish to move? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, this is very important to us as a council and regionally, and it also ties in with the work and the involvement with the Eastern Health Authority, who have a big, quite a carriage of this particular health plan for our region. So I look forward to finally us having a public health plan and the consultation on it. And I did attend one of the original consultation meetings, and some really excellent work and suggestions came out of that. So I commend this to us.
Yeah, it's a good idea, for sure. Got a second? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 15.2, St Helens Park minor works was withdrawn by Councillor Groot. Just a brief reason why you withdrew it, Councillor Groot.
That's a question.
The question, did you wish to move it?
Yes, more than happy to move it. So thank you for that. Look, I do have just a fairly simple question to the Director of Structure and Assets, I think, on this one. First of all, I'd just like to say that I think this is a really useful and, sorry, wrong director, it's actually Greg was nodding, so
He's always very happy.
No, look, I think it's a really good idea of the money. Obviously, we had put some money into something, but not something else. During the election, it's interesting to say that I had a number of people contact me about St Helens and about doing some upgrades. I think this is a really good idea. The question I had, though, was after reading the reports a few times, I'm not really clear exactly what we're going to do. It might be because we're not clear about exactly what we're going to do yet. So my first question I had was, are you clear about what upgrade we're actually going to do in that space, or is that still to be resolved through the meeting?
That's the question.
Through the Chair, it will depend on the quotes we receive. Essentially what we're looking to do is a like-for-like replacement of assets that have reached their useful life. If we can do every piece, we'll do every piece, but it will depend on the prices that come back through the quoting process.
Yeah, thank you.
Based on Crab Memorial Gardens, we'll probably replace the mulch. It's a pretty expensive exercise to replace playground equipment. Look, the only other thing I had was we did talk about not necessarily going to have public consultation. I don't disagree with that at one level. I think it would be good, if possible, though, if we could just put some signs up around the place to say, because it is well used, just to say we're thinking about, well, we are going to do something, just to let people know, if nothing else. It's very low-end consultation. I don't think we need to do anything full blind, but it would just be good to notify people and contact your local councillor, any one of us, about what that might be. Because people will have some good ideas about what they want. I wouldn't necessarily support like for like, but not to say it's not a good idea either. It's one of those parts that also be turning my attention to the budget process as well, as to what we're going to do with it, particularly around that end near the kindy and near the play area. So, look, I think it's a fairly simple, straightforward recommendation. I'll certainly be supporting it. Just wanted those questions noted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Lee, could you speak to it? Any further debate? Councillor Bowman and then Evans.
Yeah, I was just concerned, I guess there's two items regarding St Helens Park, and without a master plan, I guess, again, identifying it is a large asset, St Helens Park, and it's sort of key to our community. Certainly during my campaign, a lot of people expressed to me the need or desire to have a canine play area. There's also, seniors activities area. And so, yes, there is a kindergarten there at the moment, but I guess master planning, and we're spending, again, ratepayers' money, that we've actually got a long-term plan for this space. And I'm concerned that we're sort of spending money, little bits here and little bits there, or actually not looking at the bigger picture. So I guess I'd just like to note, and I have emailed, I think, the Director in regards to certainly a desire to have a master plan, but if it's seen that the current facilities are a danger or whatever and they need to be replaced, I mean, obviously that's something you have to address straight away.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Brian. And I guess not to detract from what we're talking about here being at $25,000 difference in the budget, but to make the point that it would be great if we have a policy or a plan to do with open space citywide. My understanding is we do have that, but it's at the moment unendorsed. So I think we really need to start dusting off what we want to do with open space as a broader conversation, where we want the money to go. My feeling would be there would be lots of residents complaining about lots of parks in the city with lots of assets towards the end of their useful life. So this is an issue for St Helens Park, but it's an issue citywide. And later on, when I've got my particular agenda item from forward to, I look forward to discussing this in greater detail, but for me it's about a comprehensive park strategy that addresses not only St Helens Park, but open space citywide.
Thank you. Any further debate? Being the case, Councillor Good, could you sum up?
Just briefly, just to make two comments. The first is that the last council chose to put $25,000 into this particular particular item. 4 of us around the table made the decision, 4 didn't, and I think it's quite legitimate for this council to question that. I have no problems with that at all. But we did identify it as one of those parts that needed some additional resourcing, as one of those that has had very, very little, if any, money spent on significantly on assets over the last number of years. So, I'm very supportive of that happening at St Helens Park. It is a relatively small amount of money, not against discount, but it is still ratepayers' money, of course. The second point is the park strategy. We do have a park strategy. I think Councillor Evans mentioned that. We do have it. It's been one of those things that's been difficult to get across the line, and many directors have tried to try and get us to agree to it, and I guess that's down to Nathan, to Director of Community Planning and Communications to do. But really, all of our assets across the city and how we need to make sure we use parks. I think we're still the only metropolitan council. Sorry, we are the metropolitan council with the lowest amount of open space, and so we need to make sure we preserve and maintain. For the sake of it, I'll put on the public record, my view is no net loss of open space, and that's something that I think we'll continue to campaign on. So certainly, I wouldn't see us losing any investment in staying in this part by supporting site.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? It is carried. Righty, on to item 15.3, the draft St Helens Park Kindergarten lease agreement on page 181 and 182. Councillor Green, brief reason why you brought it out.
I would like to move an amendment to the lease agreements.
Right, so it's not appropriate that you move it. Somebody wish to move it in its current form? Councillor Barnett.
For the purposes of discussion.
Does anybody wish to second it? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it? Okay, Councillor Brief.
Thank you. Look, first of all, I'd start by saying I think it's really good that we've got these facilities such as the Kindy and St Helens Park, and we just had a conversation about the park in the previous item. My only concern, though, is the date of the lease, and I wanted to explore the option of trying to bring together lease dates for the assets that we either own or that we lease out on the organisation. In particular, we've got a lease coming up, I think, on Thomas Street Centre of 2019. To me, it would make sense to try and bring those two dates together for two purposes. One, having the similar lease dates will provide some administrative ease. I think we'll get to the end of both of those leases to have conversations with the Department of Education and Children's Services in terms of how to proceed on both sites. But it also gives us an opportunity to do some master planning across both sites about what do we want to do, what do we want to get out of our assets, what do we want to get out of assets that we're effectively leasing from other organisations. So I'm not quite sure how I make an amendment to a recommendation, or it's not to a recommendation, it's to the lease agreement, whether it's a third or fourth recommendation. I'll take the advice from the Mayor about how I might do that, but I'll be seeking to change that lease date and to marry it up with the lease that we currently have on the Thomas Street Centre. So I'll pose that question first.
Well, I like the suggestion, and I am just trying to see how that could be entertained. I think it would need to be either in item 1 or a new item 1, because it's sort of a condition precedent. I just refer this to the Director, because I'm sure your first question is can we, and then how do we incorporate it in the motion. So, Director.
Thanks for those questions. My view in the answer to can we is yes, we can. The question of how is a little more challenging, but I think you're right, Mayor, in that it needs to certainly have the words incorporated into item 1 that reflects an end date of August 2019, which will then align with the other lease, the Thomas Street Centre, which you're referring to.
So after the word lease agreement, perhaps insert in there, with the exception of the lease expiry date, which will be set to match that of Thomas Street Centre.
Yes. Through the Chair, that would be fair.
It should be set to match the expiry of Thomas Street Centre. In terms of the my lease will expire on that. Yep. So at the start, just noting that the rights of renewal that we put in, the 3+3+3, are exercisable by the tenant, not by us. So we need to make sure that the conditions are quite firm that if we do it, the whole thing finishes It's up to us to decide whether we renew as we are looking at right now. And the word expiry, I understand the director's telling me that word works. It's not a renewal date, it's an expiry date.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green, it's your motion. So is that what you, sorry, it's your amendment. Is that what you're amending it to?
I'm happy with that amendment, thank you. I just want to clarify my mind. That's then effectively nullifies the renewal option in the lease. So the renewal options no longer exist with a lease expiry date. I just want to be very, very clear that that's exactly otherwise.
Question, Director?
Through the chair, I believe it's covered. We could add additional words.
After the word lease,
After the word,
including any renewal periods?
Yes.
Sorry, the other lease. The little L lease. Yeah. Including any renewal periods. Comma after the word periods and a comma after the word lease. It's a bit fuzzy. Including the renewal periods. Okay, so we can slow that up. I think we've got that covered. They're just word switching and cutting and pasting that to work. Councillor Brooks, sorry, I've got to have your attention. You're seeking this amendment. Anything further in your proposed amendment?
No, that's the only amendment I wanted to make.
Okay. Okay. I'll now seek the indulgence of the movement seconder to see if they're happy to incorporate this into the motion. So, Councillor Barnett, are you happy to incorporate?
Only contingent on clarification of when is the expiry of the Thomas Street Centre lease.
I'll just get clarification. It's Sunday in 2019.
2nd of August 2019.
2019.
So,
So that's very clear. That's, we could, yeah. You'll say no, Councillor. It sounds essentially what you're saying, in which case I'll make it an amendment and we'll test the floor. Yep. So the amendment is going to go through as an amendment. Councillors, anything further you wish to say to it in your remaining couple of minutes?
Well, since I'm up for the move, I will. Look, I think this is really important. This is a really strategic asset of ours. I would like to see kindy remain on that site. This isn't about kicking the kindy out. It's not about making them nervous. It's not about putting kids on the streets and not having a kindy to go to. It's just about making sure that we've got a good planning capacity for that site and for Thomas Street site, which are two. And at Thomas Street site, we know the numbers of people going to libraries. If you read your information report, it's really significant, 20,000 I think so far this year to date. It's one of our biggest assets, so we want to make sure we're planning for across the city of Prospect. We want to make sure we're planning for our community. Having that lease date being the same allows us to do that across two sites. It also provides, I think, some administrative efficiencies as well from a staffing point of view, because you're negotiating on two leases at the same time rather than going through two separate processes at two separate times. And I think we should make it very clear to the kindy our intent behind this as well, that it's not about kicking them out. I just want to put on public record, it's definitely not about that. It's just about making sure we've got that capacity plan. I would really encourage elected members to support the motion. I think it's really important to get this done.
Okay, we'll have a second to the amendment. Councillor Harris. Speak to it.
Yes, but just one quick question is St Philip's, have we got a date for St Philip's?
Yeah, I think we are.
Same St Philip. Gosh, I always thought we did.
church
Answer that question. No, look, I support it because it's more so what I hear from areas around about, particularly the library or Thomas Street Centre and things like that. So I think it's important to have our assets in one basket, and so we can negotiate around to look for the future of all children in the city. I support it.
Do you have any further debate on the amendment? Councillor Bowman.
Is we speaking to we are speaking to the amendment, or we're speaking to the whole lease?
Speaking to the amendment.
I agree with it.
Fantastic speech. Councillor Barnett.
The question, why aren't we then doing the same with the the Prospect kindy on Regency Road? If this is so important.
Well, I guess because we haven't asked to start to turn their mind to it, but we have some information directed, you know, when that lease is up.
Yeah, I know.
Through the chair, I don't have that at the top of mind. essentially the reason it hasn't come to the chamber is because it's not up for renewal right now.
So if you could get it in a memo, you could let us know.
Absolutely, can follow that up. Thanks, Chair.
Any further discussion on the amendments? No, that concludes that. So there's no summing up on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? Yep. All those against? No, that was unanimous. That's carried. Now it becomes part of the motion. Any further debate on the motion? Councillor Bowman.
So I can speak to the rest of the list? Okay. So my comment is just, again, and maybe as a new elected member, on the situation with peppercorn leases, I think they're called informally, the $2 per year agreement. So I guess when we're setting these leases, is this, because it is one of our assets, why it's set so low? If someone kind of...
The lease value?
Yeah.
It's a simple question.
I'm allowed to ask.
I'm happy to refer that one to you, CEO. I think we should answer that one. I think the councillor's asking why we should be paying more money for the Thomas Street Centre as a peppercorn lease, or perhaps it's just St Helens.
Yeah, well, really, Mayor, thanks for the question. I think it's pretty commonplace that these leases are set up with a bare minimum that's payable by both parties. And it's fair to say that the Thomas Street Centre will be the same in reverse. So there's no other answer to it than that.
Fine. Yep.
Councillor, there no doubt be some history around how the kindergarten came into being and who started it, and perhaps through the history group they could pick it up, because it would be quite a good little history. St Philip's Kindergarten, raised earlier by Councillor Harrison, was family started by the parish. The parish owned it and ran it. Then the department took over and ran kindergartens, and I believe purchased the asset off the church, or I'm not sure that has been purchased. It may still be in the church's hands, at least at Peppercorn, perhaps to the department. I'm not aware. It wasn't that council started all kindies, and it wasn't that the government started all the buildings. There's decades of history behind it. Yeah. Anything further, Councillor Bowman? No? Councillor Barnett? Yes. No, you've moved the motion, so no, can't speak again. Well, you can, but not just yet. Yeah.
I'm just going to say that there is a history.
Any further debate? No? Is that the case? Back to you, Councillor Bay, to sum up.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, well, I can remember having my children been at all of the three mentioned children's services at some stage or another. And because the history does go back to when they were sort of usually the kindergarten union and they were kindergartens, and then things changed. So, I guess the reason why we support having such a peppercorn is because we recognise that most of the parents with children attending there are our ratepayers, and they do, at all of them, an enormous amount of fundraising to improve the facilities themselves. So it doesn't, it's not, you know, sort of double dipping, I guess, of we pay taxes, then we pay council rates, and then there's the fundraising for the kindergarten, for the childcare service. So yes, I think we've had some quite sensible moves made here with some of the amendment. So I commend the recommendation, and noting that we've got 6 weeks for responses from the community, and also that will include the St Helens childcare service as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour of the motion? Those against is carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 16.1, the Adelaide Farmers Market Prospect Licence Agreement, withdrawn by Councillor Bowman. Just a brief read, Councillor, while you look through it.
Yeah, it was just in the agenda attachment. It was a couple of traders responding to an email sent out by the Economic Development Department.
Sorry, it's just a brief read. So either you have a question or you...
I'm concerned that it conflicts with traders in the...
That's fine. As part of the debate, so you've withdrawn it to debate it.
Withdrawn it to debate it.
Yes. That's fine. And then so I'll ask for a mover, and as a withdrawal you have the right to move it in its current form, or I can seek another mover.
Seek another mover.
Right. Anybody else wish to move it in its current form? You can take a seat, Councillor.
Thank you. Haven't done my training yet, so
Very nice.
I'll be great, but yeah, I know.
Does anybody wish to move the report? Page 208.
Put it on the floor.
Very grateful. Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it? Thank you. Another seconder. Councillor Larwood, wish to speak to it?
No, thanks.
This is your last chance to speak to it, by the way. In case you fine by that. Thank you. Councillor Bowman, back to you. You had a question, or you can now debate the topic?
Okay, I'll stand. So, I sought clarification in regards to the email responses. So it's basically asking traders what their thoughts were to the activation of Vine Street Plaza. That information / council meeting. And there were two people that wanted to go on the record. So one was Prospect Village up the road, who sells fruit and veg, local produce as well as, I suppose, imported produce, who I would say generally is not supportive of it, and considering they're paying, rates in the street and have been established in the area. There were, I can't specifically, there was another letter there that was supportive of it, and I guess we were presented with information back at another meeting, and I would have appreciated it all together, I guess. So we had a balanced view of who was in support and who was against. I'm very much in support of activating Vine Street, but I just question if the approach we're taking when we're competing with established businesses is the right way to go about it. I would really like to see a greater point of difference for the market. I mean, it is a farmer's market, which is pretty much exclusively food and veggies and things like that. Maybe being a craft market or something might not be as in competition with the fruit and veg shop. But obviously you've got other traders to consider as well. So, yeah, so I guess I question how the council's put the information to the elected members, and I would have liked to have seen it all together. Those for and those against.
There's a comment. I didn't pick up a question for a director there. Is that correct?
Okay, so I would like to clarify, of the people, okay, getting there. Of the people sent the email, how many were for and how many were against for the traders?
Director, do you have that information?
Through your Mayor, I'd have to go back and have a look at the survey responses. The ones that were sticking out were the ones who sent individual email responses, and they wanted their record, they wanted to go on public record what their responses were. So I can break it down a bit further, if you like, by memo, information in the surveys, but we did collect surveys under the condition that they would remain anonymous.
So just roughly the question, as I understand it, was how many for and how many against? How are the ones that you did receive?
In the body of the report, a few weeks ago, the community involvement section 4. 10 responses.
44.4, 7% noticed increase in traffic and 20% said there were issues in parking. Is that the data on the split of the responses, as you said?
Yeah, that's right. So there's 7 were saying that they picked up more. Seven noticed more foot traffic. 2 raised concerns about parking availability. So that it's a summary of the general responses we got. I could give you all the responses with their names taken away if you like.
And the second bullet point after that has some more feedback about increased trade and benefit. So,
where's that bullet point?
Yeah,
on page 210, item 4.4. First bullet point talks about increased pedestrian traffic. Second about car parking. The third one says variation in trading figures. So, do you earn more or less?
Can I?
Anything further?
Yeah, so I guess I just would have appreciated when we're making decisions on these things to have a sort of tabulated format so we can actually clearly see who's for it, who's against it, who's replied. Because I just want to be very cautious that even though we're representing residents, we're also representing businesses. So when we make decisions, I just want to be making it on the right information.
Any further debate? Councillor Harris and Ms. Bain.
Just a question in case I've missed it. One of the things, and I know I raised while we were going through this discussion with a lady in particular, was about our own car parking out the back. We were going to look at this stage to knock that down to about half so we could still park. Is that in there or?
Director, yes.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, that's being negotiated in the new lease agreement, the draft agreement, that they're only to use car parks as they require them, and if as the market grows and more stallholders, they can take back car parks, but they are limiting their car parks.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor? Is it?
There's a question, no, but then I'll speak.
That's now.
Okay. I'm concerned over the whole thing because I always have been with the local people that have their businesses and that sort of thing. I personally only been a couple of times, so it's a criticism, I suppose, of myself occasionally, but I won't do it. But I'm going to actually support it because in the main it does help the area. I'm concerned about a couple of trades in particular, the fresh fruit type places that sell fresh fruit type things, various grocery places and fresh fruiters and others. But I think why it didn't work good last year, maybe with the new people, hopefully with a 12-month lease, we might see some better improvement and Mother Earth might give them good weather and it might also help as well. So I'm going to support it at this time of year, so give them another 12 months to try. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barnett, I see your hand up.
Yes, yes. Yes, when it first came to us, sorry, did you? Oh, well.
Up, not out.
Anyway,
Yes, anyway, carry on, Councillor Barnett.
eating to my speaking time. Yes, when it first came up, I had, I think, about 2 A4 pages of questions, and a lot of them were sort of mainly answered. And so we've given it the trial run, and I have been several times. Yes, it's you know, with one hand, I do see, you know, that it can add, and these things do take time to have people change their ways that they may shop and things. But I think, on the other hand, it's been mentioned, and it has been put to me, other traders are very concerned that it seems like, you know, they have to pay their council rates and all that, but actually having, you know, a permanent sort of shop and everything, compared with the other two to come in and actually get a fairly good run in that sense. On one hand, it's supporting our farmers and our rural people. They have good products. Some are quite unusual products, and some products you can find in some of our shops. My main concern is that the lack of the parking spaces for those with disabilities. Nearly all of them are taken up. When I brought my 93-year-old mother here, there was no place I could get close to it. So I had to park her, like dump her there, go off, find a space, way down the other end, come back, and she was there waiting for me. So I would like that. I think we still need to function as a civic centre and with people coming here to do other business. So I think that, to me, the main sticking point is the car parking. Now, I note that up on 16.1, it's got to use the Vine Street Plaza on Thursdays 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then further down, where have you gone? On The Joys of Life had. Page 227, times of use. So every Thursday, 3 p.m. 7 p.m. actual market time. Every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., including bump-in out time to one of the car parks. Now, previously, I hadn't thought it was 10:30 a.m. I thought that it was 1 p.m. And then for sitting up at 3 p.m. So I'm concerned that our park out there for 2,000 is being tied up quite a more number of hours than originally.
Is that a question, Councillor?
It's a question and statement. I think having 10:30 a.m. that car park type, when down in the Civic Centre, and I don't believe they're going to be changing, we have activities going on down there, and the place is absolutely chock-a-block. And that use of the Civic Centre happens during that morning time and creeps over, I think, into the day. So I'm not happy at all about that. And I'm just wondering if any staff can illuminate.
So, Councillor, I thought you were asking a question of what are the current lease conditions with regard to the commitment of pumping time? As it is at 10:30 at the moment. In other words, is it 10:30 at this point?
That's one clarification of love.
I'll state your question to the Director and ask for a response. Director.
Through the Mayor, I believe those original numbers in the agreement at the time in the draft lease agreement are sort of worst case scenarios, so they're provisions, so the change, so there's flexibility there, but that can be changed.
Which page is it on? Sorry, I'm just looking at that.
7, item 4.
And what is it in the current lease, Director? Are you aware?
Yes, this is the same. So this is the same as the original lease.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Right, okay. So it's just a rollover of years. So there's some information for you, Councillor. Do that as you wish.
Well, I'd like to, is it time for me to move an amendment? Or seek the mover and the seconder to change that to every Thursday 1 p.m. instead of 10:30.
Yes, so a potential amendment, but I will seek the indulgence of the mover. Councillor Evans, would you be happy to incorporate that change? Yes, and Councillor seconder, Councillor Lee.
No.
Oh, Matt Larwood. Oh, not the old ML trick. Okay. Councillor Larwood, you happy to incorporate? Yep. Now, lead of the meeting, need a majority of people to agree to that being incorporated. All those in favour of incorporating that change? Against, it starts incorporated. Thank you. Councillor Barnett, now we'll say 1 p.m. if it gets up. Anything further? Give me much time left.
Yes, and also a query about the number of parking spaces available to those with disabilities. That I don't.
That's a question to the Director.
Yes.
Director, can you answer that now, or do you want to take it on notice?
Through the Chair, we'll take that on notice and make sure that they're provided as per the requirements.
Yes,
Hang on, that's a bit tricky because one is outside their area and one is inside their area. So unless you change the lease area, you can't make that guarantee on the hook.
Through the Chair, I'll take that on notice.
Okay, thank you. Certainly, Councillor, if they retreat that northern boundary, the first 2 car parks who get freed up, I understand, are the disability car parks or across each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruton Lee, can find out who goes first.
I'll be pretty quick. Okay, that's right. The licence fee, we had some discussion at the workshops about the licence fee, and we had a bit of a debate about what's a reasonable amount and what isn't a reasonable amount. From what I can pick up, what I'm picking up from some of the feedback is that it seems that the issue that there's no rates being paid seems to be the sticking point. And so I just want to make sure that the headline number, which is going to be $2,000, how does that compare to any other payment we might ask for pop-up services that happen in the city? So that's probably a question to the Mayor. because that works out to be about $40 a week that we're charging for the pop-up services we have in the market. Do we charge for pop-up services at the moment? If we do,
Is that the question, Director, or any of the directors? You aware? I don't believe we charge any market. No? It compares, if you're comparing with the sporting clubs and wherever we have, there's very few that pay more than $1,200. Most of them are well under that.
So there you go. We're trailblazing. We're charging more for the farmers market than anyone else in product services. So I think that's facts. Look, it's interesting. We're having almost a similar debate to what we did when farmers market first came up in terms of issues, and it will always impact on local services. It will always provide more foot traffic for other local businesses. It's a balancing act. On balance, I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Farmers markets are very specific and they cater for a niche market. I think what Councillor Harris said that when he didn't go very often, that's actually not a criticism of yourself. It's indicative of how farmers markets work. It gives the community more choice. Personally, I like to buy produce straight from the farmer, and I do all my fruit veggie shopping at Adelaide Fresh. By the way, often still can't get a car park there, so it's not like their business has decreased significantly. And they've actually come on board with lots of really good local produce, and they've set up their own bakery, and that's going great guns as well. So I actually think it was a great business move for Adelaide Fresh, and they're going from strength to strength. I think that we are not competing with local businesses. There's not anything else like it on Prospect Road in terms of no middleman, niche market, and catering for those members of the community that want something a little bit different from the fresh produce that they buy. I think it's a great service for us, and I totally support the motion, and I support some of the I also support Adelaide Fresh. There you go. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Any further debate? No, back to you, Councillor Evans, if you wish to sum up.
I'll do so in just a couple of seconds. And I think in many ways the Adelaide markets, as we're seeing at the moment, is still in its development stage. Hopefully they've got a good year ahead of them, and hopefully this lease will give them the opportunity. Philosophically, I support what they're doing, and I'd like to see more of it in the city. I think it's a great idea that we have space and we give it to other people to do things with. Vine Street Plaza may not be Victoria Square, but Victoria Square, the asset, the croquet club, the fringe, these other activation programs that are separate to government are the ones that are actually making that space really usable. So I think if we can start to encourage other people to come, maybe we do have pop-up services as a fee we do charge. Philosophically, I think it's a great idea, and since we're broadly supportive of the initiative, I look forward to them hopefully having a good year ahead.
Well said. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Right. Item 19.2. 19.2, the Audit Committee Annual Self-Assessment and Annual Report to Council. The recommendation on page 257 includes a couple of spots there for us to make comment back to the Audit Committee, who I know would appreciate our feedback, and perhaps Councillor Barnett may have a few ideas about that. She participates in the business of the committee. She may not, but I don't want to put her on the spot, and expect an answer straight away. It may happen. I have ideas, might not. But anyway, we have 19.2, 257. The recommendation is that we note the report and we provide feedback on how satisfied Council is with the function of the Audit Committee and its work program upon receipt of the presentation of the annual report by the Chair of the Audit Committee. Unfortunately, the Chair of the Audit Committee is an exceptional bloke to have as a Chair, but he's exceptionally busy because he's tied up in a whole pile of really interesting things. Can't be here tonight. We have invited them to a future Council dinner, the three members of the Audit Committee, and we'll hear from the Chair at that. We thought it worthy of providing the report this meeting. If you're happy to move that we accept it and provide feedback, we'll do so. If not, we're going to wait for the Chair to actually personally deliver it, and so be it. It's here before you, Councillors. Somebody wish to move? Yes, we need to change. Yes, so staff are recommending that we delete a couple of words just to reflect the Chair couldn't be here. Do you have a mover? Councillor Barnett, speak to us.
I think if we just note that on the first page, 257 of 1.2 outlines the committee's work program, and so I think that would be the clue to that it is, in my opinion, as a member, providing a valuable service to council, and also particularly from looking at it from an independent point of view, and they've come up with some very good observations and recommendations, and I think, in my opinion, it is functioning very well and doing what it's required to do. So I think that's all that I required to move. I know what the 2.1s and the 2.2.
Well, that is feedback, Councillor. Should you wish to recommend some feedback for us to consider?
Well, I think I just said it. All right. It provides valuable independent advice to council, and it's working in the way that it's outlined of its purposes.
The committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly what you said before.
Lost it now. So I'm going to advise council, and it's
I think it's just only that's fulfilling its functional role.
she is fulfilling its function effectively.
About anything with decision making, council decision making.
And assisted, yes, with council
Decision making.
decision making.
So there's a starter for us. Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Much obliged. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Evans, would you speak to us?
Just very briefly, and really my comments in terms of feedback are just around some benchmarking, and the Director and I are speaking about that now, but what ideally I would love the Audit Committee to look at is to start developing some benchmarks around our residents in City of Prospect getting value for money effectively from our key services. So benchmarking, say for instance, against industry norms, benchmarking against other local governments on key service areas, and coming to some resolutions in terms of giving us advice about where we need to spend more money, where we need to pull back spending, how we can structure our core business of local government to make sure that the residents get the best value for the money they can, benchmarked against other local governments, be it in the state or in the nation. So in terms of feedback, I think what they're doing is really great, and if there are opportunities for them to expand their horizon, that benchmarking stuff would be where I would be looking.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further debate? No? Councillor Barnett, do you wish to sum up the two excellent speeches that have been made? No need to if you don't wish to.
Just on the last point, I think that has been the desire of the Audit Committee, and is I think part of its work program about looking at benchmarking. So I think the full report's there. It's, in my opinion, doing a really excellent job for us, as it is required to do by the state government. So I commend the report to you, the motions to you.
Okay, thank you. Please debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. On to item 19.4, nominations for the Local Government Association President, board members on page 299.
Yeah.
presidency expires in, so I think the 2nd of May is the next general meeting. Friday the 1st, thank you, Kerry. And there must be a regional president elected, so the nominations for that will flow only from the regions. We all get a chance to vote on whoever puts themselves up. It might just be one person, and the criteria for being elected president or nominated, is that you must have served on the board for at least a year. So those names are provided for us for future reference. However, this item is allowing any of us to serve as a board member. Councillors would be aware that I'm the president and have been a board member for some time, I think to the beginning of 2007, I think. But there's no restriction on the number of councillors from a particular council on the board. It's unusual to have more than one. The election normally sorts that out. I become immediate past president. There's no election required for that. That's just automatic. So if anybody else wishes to nominate, they can do so, and I encourage you to. It's a good thing to be part of, great for the sector. I don't think the staff have been notified of any nominations so far. No? Are there any nominations tonight?
You come from Perry, that's in the country.
Yeah, not Putbury Council though, I'm afraid. We're going to have to do another 2 years.
Sorry, question. Can you clarify, you are automatically on the board, so we don't need to nominate you?
That's correct, as far as I understand. Yes, to be clarified. Yeah. Unopposed, again, it's incredible. I can only nominate one. So, sorry, take that back what I said before. So in terms of me being IPP, we can nominate one more?
Correct.
Okay, so there's unusually we can have another person. Councillor Barnett.
Just a question. Could we be informed about what's required of a deputy board member?
Yes. Yes. Andrew Governance, you wish to address the gathered crowd here.
Yeah.
Eager for your words of wisdom.
Through the Mayor, you don't nominate for deputy board member. You just nominate for a position on the board, and from that they will, the board.
No, all the councils.
All the councils will decide on who will be a board member and who will be a deputy. So there's one type of nomination.
Sorry then, but part one doesn't exactly...
No, sorry, it is a bit confusing. What happens is you nominate to be on the board, and the first 8 past the post become board members, and the next 4 past the post become deputy board members, and the 13th and beyond doesn't get a role at all. So, yes, the motion doesn't explain it, or the recommendation doesn't explain it, I guess. But you can't choose to be a deputy board member. I'm not sure why, that's a good question. I never thought of that before. Yeah, you choose to be on the board, and then the councils vote for who they want, and you get a whole list of names, and you put them in order, and that's how it proceeds. So if there's no nominations, you nominate, you may end up being one of those 2 roles. You just have to be happy with that. That's how it works. There's no nominations. Sorry, Councillor Bowden.
So you nominate now, or it's something that you do?
Very helpful to nominate now, because your nominations, I guess I'm not explaining this very well because I've just been in it for a while. The nomination can't be accepted by the LGA unless it's endorsed by your council. So you can't nominate individually, you don't respond to a circular, it has to be endorsed through your council, which is kind of a first filter, I guess, on nominations. Yeah. So I'll ask once more, are there any nominations at this point? Next election is in 2 years' time. If not, what do we do with the motion if we don't have any?
Yeah,
We can vote.
Yeah, we can both nominate.
Yeah. Sorry?
No, you go.
Don't do
I'll nominate Councillor Bowman.
And I'll nominate Councillor Barnett. Is that how it works?
Well, no, because we only have the...
Well,
don't worry about, I'll withdraw.
So, Councillor Bowman, you are interested in...
I would like to nominate. Whether it's up, the council has to put forward someone they think is appropriate, then that's fine. But I'd like to throw my hat in the ring.
Yes. Sorry, let me just go through this. If there's only one nomination, the council gets to vote on whether they accept you as our nominee by choosing whether to support the motion or not.
Right.
Okay. If there's two nominations, we would have an election to choose our one nominee. Okay. So there being only one nomination, as I understand it, is Councillor Bowman. And how do I do this? And I need a mover and a seconder to move that you be our nominee. So, Councillor Barnett, happy to move that way?
Yes, certainly. I think it's extremely good experience. Particularly as we've got four-year terms, well, a very good learning experience, and I think it's very good to be able to have, sort of, I was going to say the same old faces, but the same young faces. It's good to have some fresh blood and somebody that's actually, quite interested in looking at this.
Yeah. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Where's the meeting?
They are this Thursday.
Thursday, June 3rd.
Or Thursday of every second month. If you're on the executive, which is the much smaller group, then you meet on every alternate month. But the vast majority of board members, it's 6 meetings a year, 2 of which are in the regions by policy. Morning. So 9 until 1. No? Do I have a seconder for Councillor Barnett's motion to nominate Councillor Bowman? Councillor Larwood, wish to speak to us?
No.
Okay. Councillor Bowman, I guess the only nominee and wanting to drum up support, I guess you should speak to the motion and tell us why you want to do it and encourage us to support your nomination. You do get 5 minutes to speak to the motion and you're not precluded from doing so, as far as I understand. Shall Manager Governance?
I'll speak to it a little bit. So those of you may know a little bit about my history. So I work in the building and construction industry, and I have, in my time as an energy assessor and trainer in building code, come across different tiers of government, and I just find that a lot of the policy that we deal with at local government level is influenced by what happens at state level and federal level. And I guess being a part of local government association, which is a representative body, you've got an ability to represent local government at different levels of government and also with different organisations. So, I mean, obviously I'm new on council, but I think I come to it with a lot of experience in some areas of government. There's obviously other areas that I'd need to learn a lot quickly, but at the same time I'd be representative and I guess, working with Prospect Council and other councils to make councils more effective. And I certainly went to a meeting last week. Councillor Barnett was there as well, just on some of the planning reform. So some of the training that they do is very effective. I think that's really useful. So you get educated elected members making informed decisions and being able to ask the right questions. And I think that's a really interesting step forward. So I guess I'd like to be involved in the sort of bigger picture of how local government moves forward. With looking down the barrel of amalgamations and all those kind of things to make sure that people who live in our communities benefit from some of the policies at all the different tiers of government and do that most effectively. So I'll throw my hat in the ring and have a go, and so I hope you support me in that.
Thank you, Corset. Any further debate? Councillor Barnett, you have the right to sum up.
No, I think we'll go forward.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Unless you're voting against yourself, Councillor.
I wasn't quite sure. I didn't vote in favour.
You have to vote. Sorry. Okay, thank you. That's carried unanimously, that means. So all the best with your nomination, and see the Manager of Governance afterwards for the procedural aspects, and go to see me about what else might help get you across the line. So it is a contest.
Yep, that's fine. Have a go. Go be it, Clint.
Okay, all the best. 19.8, the periodic election, page 332. Brief reason, Councillor Group, why you withdrew it.
Brief question, and I'm happy to move it.
Okay. Fire away.
Look, it's all straightforward. I'll just ask my question. 5.27 on page 335. Talks about the costs of the election to the City of Prospect. There was about a 10% increase, so be it. But what I'm interested in is the 5,000 personal letters we sent out to landowners, business owners, business operators and known tenants to try and increase the number of people voting. Do we know, and apologies, I couldn't see it in here a few times, but so it may not be, I'm presuming it's not. Do we know out of those 5,000 letters how many people actually enrolled? So what was the strike rate for what was our return on investment on that cost?
How'd you go?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Sorry, I can't remember if it's in there, but it should be. We've got about 180.
Out of 5,000.
Thank you, Manager. Feel better now, Councillor?
So we had the percentage on that.
Low.
Minimal.
2.7.
Low or extremely low. Okay.
I was just trying to work out the decimal point. Okay, so pretty low return. So if we look at that, we know what the issue is. I just wonder whether we can, through the LGA AGMs, continue to lobby for this issue to be resolved in a different way. I wouldn't mind formally trying to put that on our agenda just to talk about what we could do to encourage people not being removed from the role after each election. I just think there's potentially $10,000 or whatever it costs to do that we could save and put into playground equipment, roads, paths, whatever. So could I just maybe make a general request that we list that for debate or discussion in the workshop at some point, just to work out if we have a position on it and if we do, what we might do with that position.
CEO, acknowledge? Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, would you speak to it?
No, I just think it's very good to be able to get these sort of reports. And I don't know, like Councillor Groot's saying, there are anything that we can learn from them and hopefully improve.
Just from the Chair address a couple of points. There was much talk about the voter turnout being lower than previous elections. It was in fact bang on the average of the last two elections, so it seems to me that wasn't such a problem. When we compare ourselves internationally with other voluntary voter turnout arrangements, it compares favourably. In fact, people might remember the US primaries where President Obama now stands against an opposition, if you like, upper and lower house. That decision was made by 36% of the US voters, so we're at 31.5% say. So we're in the territory of those sort of decisions. You think, well, perhaps it's in the zone. The only effective way to increase the turnout, of course, is to make it compulsory, in my view, and that's something that happens in most other states in Australia, I have to add. In terms of cost of enrolling businesses, it's a really interesting one. Local government asked for this to be changed 3 election cycles ago from memory, and so the business or non-resident ratepayers were taken off the roll and had to put themselves back on within the 12 months prior to the election, or a period prior to the election, not just straight away, had to wait. It's a cumbersome process that we're now aware of and not very successful. The LGA is lobbying now to return it to what it was, where those enrolments are automatic. It's not a panacea though, it's reasonably complex. Our staff have to maintain those records, not just of who the ratepayers are, but who is the person within that entity that has the rights to place the vote or be sent the papers at least. And a body corporate, there are interesting legal issues around that, but they're resolvable, but it's not as if there's no work to be done in between. The second thing is, and this is why it got voted out before, we have to send ballot papers to all those people. So this time we've sent a letter, which has cost us money, if they're all on the roll, we have to send them all a ballot paper kit, which costs more than a letter. So we don't save money because we have another 4,820 ballot paper kits that have to go out because you assume all 5,000 are on the roll. I'm surprised to hear it's that number, but whatever the number is, it's more expensive to send a ballot kit than it is to send a letter saying please enrol. Not quite as simple as all that, but just bear in mind this issue is more complex than it at first seems. Quick update, the LGA have been lobbying the opposition. I wanted to put up an amendment to the Local Government Act about 3 months ago to bring this back, but the terms that they wanted it under were not exactly the same as what the LGA has been lobbying for, so we asked them to hold off on that because the Minister wants to open up the Act for exactly this type of amendment during this year. So everybody seems to be lining up to do it, and it's up to the LGA and us, I guess, to shape exactly what we're looking for. So I welcome the debate workshop so we can at least discuss what we think would work, because there are more than one way to skin this particular cat. Some may be more cost effective than others. It's just by way of quick update. Any further debate on this item? No, Councillor Goode, could you sum up?
Not to start, I just want to say two more things. One is that really good to see that the cost of the election was only over budget by 0.48%, which is pretty impressive, actually. So only three figures, $388 over budget, which is great. And also just to thank Kerry and all who worked for her and her staff, because it was no doubt a large undertaking, albeit having post-elections in a ward and a mineral race, but it was still a lot of work. So just to acknowledge the work that you did as well.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much. That concludes the vote, and all those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. And we're moving on to item 19.9, narrow streets policy endorsement, and Councillor Goode just very presently pulled that one out.
Another question, please. And I'm happy to move it as it is.
Move it, carry on.
So a few things. We've had a fair bit of debate about narrow streets in the last little while. When we were debating the cost of treatments to narrow streets, I thought we had, and I guess I just want to clarify this in my mind's eye, I thought we had agreed to accelerate the rate at which we were going to address the issues in narrow streets. So this talks about a budget of $10,000. I'll get to that, whether we can actually put that in that recommendation here in a minute. But I thought we had agreed to put more money into it to address the issues on those 12 streets quicker. Can I just sort of test the question through the Mayor, maybe to the Director, whether we were going to do that or whether we had agreed on $10,000? I'm not sure whether I'm there.
It's my recollection from the debate we wanted it done faster, but that requires a number of budget of some sort. Director, help us, how did you arrive at $10,000 and 4 streets per year for 3?
Through the Mayor, it's just the 10,000 divided by those streets. I think we came up with a figure of about 2,500 or something like that per street to treat with the whole consultation. If we want to speed the whole process up, by all means we can. But that's what we put forward, and that's what I thought the elected member body wanted to see, that it would be a rolling program over several years.
Thank you, Director. And in your hands, Mover.
Thank you. Look, I thought we had agreed to put more money into it, but I'll take it as, I'm not going to seek an amendment to that, but obviously I can't now, but I just thought we had agreed to put more money to do it quicker, but others may want to make an amendment should they want to.
Sorry to interrupt, but we could change that in the budget process.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next point. So what we're doing is locking ourselves into a budget bid through this recommendation, which I'm just a bit nervous about because we've had a debate here before about the way we do budget processes. And here is another one, and I think we've got another one or two that we've already committed to before we get into the budget debate proper. And so I guess I'm just raising my caution that we're kind of making lots of promises without the context of the whole budget in front of us. And here is another one where we've just, for the next 3 years, committed a small amount of money, obviously only $10,000, but we're nevertheless committing it to the budget. We're not committing to the budget.
Sorry, no.
We're committing to the budget.
That's correct. Okay. Which we can choose to include, expand, reduce, throw out.
Okay.
Just to be really clear to everybody,
okay.
This only commits the staff to write up a bid and put it into the budget bid process, yes, which we then have a look at.
Yeah, okay. So look, those are my questions up now. I think this is an issue that's going to be ongoing. We're going to keep tackling, so I might as well start somewhere.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Bain.
Can I talk to it?
Yeah, as a second, was you seconded?
I need to second it, but I would like to query an attachment.
Yes, provided you're not intending to amend it, that's fine.
Oh, well.
Okay. Right. Seconder you can't amend. Do they have an alternate seconder? Councillor Stanton, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Bowman is...
Okay, so I'm just referring to attachment 7, which is a proposed mail-out, I guess, in regards to narrow streets policy. And I'm finding this across all, or many of the departments. When we're communicating with the public, it's really useful to include diagrammatics. So sometimes when we're trying to explain things, we explain them in words, and I think it would be really important to explain them in pictures. Especially when we're talking about parking, it would be good to do something diagrammatic, option A, option B, option C, your street, circle, and then it's communicated really clearly. This is the case also with the closure of the Terrific. You know, again, a little map would have really been useful. So I just like the directors to take it on board. When you are communicating, just consider what the best way is to communicate with your audience. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to check the motion. Attachments 1 to 5 are included in the motion. Attachments 6 and 7 are not, but is provided, I presume, by way of information. Director, is there a reason why attachments 6 and 7 are not part of the policy document? One's the process flow chart, and second is the letter, the proposed letter. But it seems sensible the letter's not included because that may change from time to time, and you can incorporate suggestions. Any reason why the flow chart wouldn't be part of the policy?
Through the Mayor, there's no reason that can be included as part of the policy.
See, I mean, is it procedurally what's useful to you? At this stage, it's not moved that way.
Yeah, through the Mayor, I think the flow chart's intent was for operational use. I can't see any reason why it couldn't be incorporated into the policy as an attachment, because the public then would know what process we'd be using to consider such proposals. So I think in retrospect we should include it.
Yep, okay. So may I suggest that the mover and seconder consider that? Who have we got? Councillor Cruz and Standard. Is that something you'd be happy to incorporate? The flow chart?
It's static.
Static. Mover is happy. Seconder?
Yep.
Happy too. Just seek leave of the meeting to change item 1 to say attachments 1 to 6. All those in favour? Against as thus changed. Thank you. And Manager Governance has reminded me policy and procedure will be reviewed in 3 years' time. That is a reminder that we will review this policy, but the way the Act works is we can change any policy at any council meeting. So if we're not happy next meeting, under general business, you can ask for a change to be investigated or initiated. So just so you're aware of that. But we always put that in to make sure that we actually do review them, so they don't just disappear at this time. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Anything further on the letter? Make some suggestions?
Yeah, so just in the letter, so I guess we want to have effective communication. So letterbox drop maybe, and even coordinate that with our publications of Prospect magazine or even a YouTube video or whatever works. So just because it is a communication and education program.
Thank you. Any further debate on this item? Councillor Stanton.
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's an interesting...
Oh, sorry, hang on, Councillor Stanton. As a seconder,
Yes.
you've exhausted your opportunity to speak.
That's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's correct.
After the meeting, I'd love to talk to you about this item. Any further debate?
It was just an endorsement.
Sorry, I'm not laughing because you're not allowed to speak and then you spoke, but anyway, even though it was an endorsement. Technically, that is speaking to the motion. So, it's fine. Councillor Barnett.
No.
Right.
I'd be advised not to.
Councillor Group, would you like to sum up the debate on this long-standing issue needs to be resolved?
I would like to just acknowledge the keen support on Councillor Stanton's behalf of this motion.
Excellent. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, staff. That's a lot of hard work. Let's get into trains. Briggs. And 1910 withdrawn, I'm very certain by my records. Councillor Evans, just a brief reason why you withdrew it, Councillor, and if you wish to move it, you can do so.
I'd like to propose an amendment, so I won't move it.
Okay, excellent. And that's your reason for withdrawing it. Do I have a mover in its current form? Councillor Lee.
I'll move it in its current form because I'm very interested to hear what Councillor Evans has to say in regards to the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, Councillor Bruce, would you speak to it?
No, just to compare what Councillor Ed said.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Evans, back to you.
Well, thanks, Mayor. And would it be sufficient to propose an amendment now? Is that the
Absolutely.
So if I could propose an amendment that is the Council accepts the report or notes the report and resolves to defer to a workshop discussion of the parks strategy and identity strategy citywide. And I look forward to citywide strategy. And I look forward to speaking to that in a moment.
Okay, so now the bad news is no, that amendment I can't accept because it's quite different to the motion. The good news is you can note the report, you seem happy to do that. Under general business, you can ask for exactly what you've just asked for as a separate motion because that becomes a separate action. The debate will be based on this, but that item you've asked for is a separate piece of work. If that's okay? Anything else you'd like to say to the report?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to thank the Director and his team for putting together the report. I found it very useful and very comprehensive. In other business, I'll be looking to do two things, and that is to really focus on a park strategy and this concept of identity. And in many ways, both of those concepts have been uncovered in the report, so I think it's appropriate to quickly touch on those now in the spirit of the report. And that is that, firstly, with the park strategy, we look at open space. So we look at roads and footpaths, and we see a couple of things happening there. We see an asset management plan that appears to be very well devised and well implemented by the staff. Indeed, we find from the report that every 4 years conditional assessments are done and it's based on an as-needs basis, very pleasingly. And we also see a level of investment occurring citywide, which includes Prospect's northern areas. So that's all very pleasing. But what we do note is that that asset management plan doesn't cover street trees, doesn't cover assets that incorporate open space, and doesn't incorporate identity citywide. So we look at what's happening in Village Heart, and we've created a very strong, successful, vibrant identity here. We look at what's happening at Thomas Street, and there is, to a degree, an identity there. We look at what's happening on Churchill Road, and there's the real potential to make that something more than what it currently is. We look further north on Prospect Road, and we see what's being created by City of Port Adelaide Enfield there in Little Arabia. And we see how positive and successful that community is becoming. And what we see in City of Prospect is an opportunity to celebrate our diversity and our identity citywide. In my neck of the woods, we've got on Percy Street, R.M. Williams, a global brand. A lot we can do with that precinct. We've got model trains, one of the few councils that have this model trains opportunity. We can perhaps look at it in terms of a strategic master plan, in terms of the development, and say what can we do to build identity and strengthen this space. It's in the north of Prospect, I think, that it's particularly prevalent because there is no identity there, and that's the level of disconnect that residents feel. But more so, it's also citywide. So we've got Broadview Oval coming on board, a great opportunity to again celebrate another precinct. Precincts don't necessarily have to compete with Village Heart, but I see no reason why we shouldn't develop a citywide approach to developing identity and developing strategy that incorporates and includes all of our residents. We've got many of the programs that the report spoke of, things like Beachy Burgess, a great opportunity there to really celebrate something in terms of success and in terms of resident engagement in building their own identity in their key streets. I would note a couple of things out of the report. Precinct services already are occurring, and that's a great start. So already we have areas that are identified for maintenance and for asset upkeep. Really this concept of identity and building and growing what is effectively a community goodwill could really start to grow from there. One of the things I found interesting, and if you do the math in the report, 64% of our roads out there are within 10 years of their useful life. So within 10 years, these roads are going to be fully appreciated. That's a trend in the north of Prospect, but I think there's going to be a trend you'll find mostly citywide as well. So we've got to get smarter about how we use and maintain and invest in care for our assets and our core assets. And one of the things I was particularly heartened about as well was when we're looking at things like the Asset Useful Lives Program, the Road Useful Lives Program. So Research Council's doing that I would love to understand and know more about. So there's some very positive things there. Things that are underway as well, we can't go past CLEC and this Roads Useful Life Program. I think those two core elements, core pillars are absolutely in play at the moment and really need no further action from Council. The two things that I think really can give life to this report and life to the spirit of upgrading an area that is literally ready to go boom, I think, is to get a good park strategy in place that addresses some of these issues we've been debating tonight. Things like St Helens Park. St Helens Park needs capital works, needs new play equipment. I'm sure that that isn't a problem isolated to Helens Park. I know there are many parks citywide that need that level of attention and that level of understanding as well. So maturely, we need to understand what it is we want from our open space. Maturely, we need to understand what it is we want from our streets and our communities. And maturely, we need to identify areas and precincts within the city that aren't limited only to Village Heart, that don't compete with Village Heart, but include all relevant residents in the city. And so in other business, I look forward to moving those two items, that we do start a conversation at this stage at workshops around those two, to give life to, I think, what is the spirit of this report. And again, I thank the Director for his time in putting it together, and look forward to noting the support and to noting the report and to supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate on this item? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I agree with what's contained in the report. I do note that there's talk about veggie burgers and that. I do note that some streets, one street in particular, when I went to visit in Lindley Street, and the new paving put down there, well, most of the rest of the streets got very nice greening on the verge, and the only option, because this particular resident didn't want to have the green grass lawn out the front, was the horrible, in my opinion, grey, powdery surface that is put on there. Already, when I'd been down there within a few weeks of it being laid in conjunction with the new footpath, kids have been out having a great game, doing wheelies in their bike in it and spreading the stuff all over the place. I did put forward an idea previously, which I thought was raised at a workshop, and I sent emailed information to the previous council. I hope to find it again, and was to look at having some councils around Australia have had success with having a particular sort of mulch that's put down instead of the grey horrible powder, which I think does far more for our environment, does far more for the aesthetics of our street. And so I'll be bringing that to our attention in the future, like I did before.
Thank you. Any further debate? I want to speak from the chair briefly. It's always good to go through an election and see people's good ideas come forward, and Councillor Evans ran a very effective campaign on the north, being gutted and therefore in need of some attention. And of course the report shows that that's not the case. And in fact the council's worked assiduously to make sure that worst footpath gets done first and worst road gets done first. And you'll have the joy of entering a budget discussion fairly soon and working out that we can't possibly pay for all the things that make perfect sense and need to be done. That is it's not a joy at all, actually, it's miserable. But I do note the rather outrageous percentage of driveway upgrades that's been occurring in the north. 73% of the citywide driveway upgrade expenditure program. So it seems to me that most things are on par except for that. So sometimes there's good news that comes out of these reports, Councillor Evans. I hope you promulgate that around your neighbourhood as you did the apparent deficit. One other curiosity about the Northern Ward is the high number of concrete footpaths, and this is another dilemma we've had. It's not a long dilemma because whilst most people in our city want to have block paved footpaths, and where you have a concrete footpath, those of us who are wiser and older and have survived many budgets understand that if that footpath is flat and intact, if it's made of concrete, I don't care what it's made of, it ain't going anywhere. And some residents get upset that their old grey concrete footpath won't be pulled up and replaced with nice new pavers. The Northern Ward has a very high proportion of, and some of the Eastern Ward does too, concrete footpaths that are in very, very good condition. But of course, it plays with the numbers in terms of the footpath replacement program because they're not going to be replaced. So the percentage of footpath replacement work in the north and some parts of the east has always been lower than in other wards because of that historic fact. It's also worth noting, I think, and I do like Councillor Evans' speech on identity, that the North has some features which don't appear anywhere else in our area at all. The train park is one that we support. We don't charge them a lease. I don't think we don't charge them anywhere near $2,000. If we do, I think it's nothing. And we regularly get the money out of our community grant fund because we love them and support them as much as we can. R.M. Williams is the other one. We don't have anywhere else in the city. In fact, nowhere else in the country is there the original factory of R.M. Williams at the museum. And the good news there is that go back a bit, we asked R.M. Williams to help us theme the street. That was about 5 or 6 years ago to provide some identity, and they were not happy to participate at that point for a range of reasons. They have recently changed ownership. You might have been following. They're now 100% owned by Louis Vuitton, or the group that owns Louis Vuitton. And they have a new CEO as well as the new owners, and I understand from the local South Australian manager they're very happy to recommence discussions on how they and council work together to provide some sense of identity, which I really welcome. So I look forward to bringing some of those suggestions to you at some point. And just also to note that the largest project occurring in Prospect now over the next 3 years is the upgrade of Prospect Road, which heads straight into the Northern Ward. In fact, the majority of the money we'll spend is in the North Ward of our largest ever project. Well, not largest ever. But as part of that, we are upgrading the footpath. It's really important to note, particularly those interested in the northern area, the current pricing of that project to keep costs down is that we just have an extrusion of the standard footpath and gutter going all the way up to our northern boundary. Okay? So not different coloured pavers like north of our city, not the high-intensity, high-cost treatment we have in the village heart. Now that is done purely for costing reasons, to keep budgets down and to keep rates down. In the master plan, however, there is a node created around the Percy Street shops. In fact, the shops are on the other side of the road. That would be lovely to do. There's also a node suggested at St Helens Park, and we'll see we didn't proceed with that one. But we would love to do it around there as part of some identity for the north, but it costs a lot more money. So if you're interested in pursuing the debate about how we turn identity into some physical presence that council is involved in, you'll need to do some lobbying around how we actually fund it, because it's more. And on a final note, I totally agree with you that we have a legacy of old infrastructure because we're an old city, 1872. Some of our road bases, no doubt, date back to then, and certainly in terms of the ones that are like Canberra. And anything we can do in terms of funding it is much appreciated. So if anybody knows any politicians anywhere that has anything to do with the cuts to the supplementary local road fund, and the freezing of the federal assistance grants, which goes straight into local roads, please write to them, see them, email them, and tell them that money gets spent on really good stuff, but please can we have that funding back, because we are now the lowest funded state in terms of road funding in the country, which I not yet had anyone justify to me why we deserve that. But a great speech. Look forward to the discussion on identity and how we convert that, because I totally agree with that aspect. Thank you. Any further debates on this item? Councillor Lee, do you wish to sum up?
No, only to say that I applaud Councillor enthusiasm for City of Prospect, and what a shame we can't move an amendment now because he's such an enthusiastic speaker. I was saying, yeah, let's do it. But I'm sure there's an opportunity in general business for just to move this stuff to a workshop, and so that we can have a good discussion amongst all of us, because he is talking predominantly citywide, thinking a bit of Northwood, yay, Northwood. But it's a citywide discussion, and I think that once we can actually define identity of these certain places, then we might have more enthusiasm for funding master plans to actually create that identity. And we might actually find that it doesn't actually cost as much, because that identity can come from the community itself.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Yes. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Dicky Naircliffe's kids are good crooks, so he's ducked off to help out. Back to the council agenda, item 20, the council diary, a whole pile of things coming up. Council Prospect Farmers Market, of course. The African Twilight markets, which I don't think we charge anything for, activate space every Friday night during daylight saving. Please tell your friends and head along. We have the Twilight Concert starts on the Friday the 6th of February. I'm sure those who've been on council a while have been to them. They're fabulous. Tell your friends again, get them along. Those of you who haven't, please join us. It's really good fun. Club 5082 on the Friday night of the 6th as well, and the Twilight Concerts at Club 5082 continue. Art Gallery opening on Sunday the 1st of February, and we also have here the matinee series. Sorry, Mark, there's a whole pile of shows here that start on February somewhere. Oh, it's part of the HAG program, so Home Community Care program supported by City of Prospect and Town of Walkerville. I think everyone got one of those in there.
Yeah.
The table there, and they are a couple of complimentary tickets. Is that what they are? Yes. Terrific. Okay. So please get yourself in there, or I presume we can give those tickets to a friend or someone else. Right. Thank you. Very good. Item 21, general business. Is there any general business? I take it Councillor Evans has an item.
Yeah, thank you. As before, just to move that we consider as a future workshop the adoption of a parks strategy and identity strategy citywide.
Yeah, so we'll just change what's up there to a park strategy and a
citywide identity strategy.
So the upkeep of roads, footpaths and power lines is not necessarily information, is it? This is a different matter.
Yeah, this is, so it comes out of that report. So the citywide park strategy and citywide identity strategy, citywide park strategy.
It would be great if Councillor Evans had written this down and got the grammar right and all that sort of stuff, but he hasn't on this occasion. He's promising to next time, Manager Governor. He's promising to next time.
Training.
And citywide park strategy. And I think in terms of the first word, D should be A. Council workshop. Sorry, Councillor Evans, you're hoping that would come to us
In a workshop, and just to clarify with this concept of identity, we're talking about nodes citywide, so the identity of nodes or pockets citywide. It's not a strategy for the City of Prospect, I think it's about nodes, individual local areas, activation of individual local areas.
citywide strategy identifying.
Yeah.
I'm happy to use the word node if we want, so we could say a citywide strategy to identify nodes. So, yeah, we'll work it out in the workshop, but effectively it's about that identity for individual pockets. Yeah, it's the
nodes. Bottom of plants that sometimes throw.
Yeah, I got a Port Power one today.
My mother's got one.
And did you want a time frame on that? Sometime in the next 4 months, 6 months?
Yeah, sometime within the next 4 to 6 months sounds reasonable. However, probably 4 months really. It's a case of really we just need to discuss it.
Well, within the next 4 months. Okay, so you do that? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Do you wish to speak, as you're now moving that, do you wish to speak to that at all?
I think I've spoken to the...
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lee. Do you wish to speak to it?
Oh, I think
Stand up when you're muttering.
I'll mutter out loud now. So I think Councillor Evans has explained it very well.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Lovett.
Can I ask that we include a review of any existing such strategies as part of that discussion?
Yes, I think that's noted. There's a lot of work that's been done in that which will help us form the strategy. Did you wish to make that part of the motion at all? Or
Oh, no, as long as we don't just go blank paper style into this.
Yeah. Thank you. Noted. Sorry. Any further debate? Councillor Evans, do you see the need to sum up?
No,
All those in favour? Against is carried. Any further general business? Are there any general business of an urgent nature? No, that being the case, comprehensive items there are nil. Declare the meeting closed.